Hi guys, let's talk about our intercepts. So intercepts are where a curve or a graph or a line, wherever that thing crosses the x or y axis. So as we can see down here in our graph, we have that x-axis. Along that x-axis, there's a point, and where my graph crosses that x-axis, that point is my x-intercept. Along my y-axis, that point where my graph crosses my y-axis is called my y-intercept. So one thing that would really be helpful to remember is that intercepts are points. They're a location on that graph. So your x-intercept isn't 3, okay? You need to be more descriptive than that. So since they're points, we need to be sure to write them as coordinates. So that means you're going to have some number, in little parentheses like that, if you remember plotting points when you were younger. Okay, so let's talk about actually finding these x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So along that x-axis, as you can see, x can be any value it wants to be, but y has to be 0 along that x-axis. So if I want to find my x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y, and then you'll solve for x. So once you do that, you're going to have some value for x, right? So you'll have a number there. And then we know that we plugged in 0 for y, so we know that 0 has to go in the other part of that point. So every x-intercept that you have will be some number 0. All right, now same idea for that y-intercept. So all along that y-axis, y can be anything it wants to be, but x has to be 0. So to find the y-intercept, we are going to plug in 0 for x, and then solve for y. So when we have our point, we know that we plugged in 0 for x. So we know our y-intercept is going to have a 0 first, and then we're going to solve for y, so we'll end up with some other number. So each of my y coordinates will be 0, some number. So let's go through and actually try to find the x and y intercepts for these guys. So we want to find the x and y intercepts of the line 3x minus y equals 6. So first, let's find the x-intercept. So to find the x-intercept, I know I need to plug in 0 for y. So I'm going to have 3x minus, and then in for y goes 0, equals 6. Well, you might not have been needed to actually go through that step because you might have been able to see, well, if I plug in 0, the y just goes away, right? Absolutely. So then we end up with 3x equals 6. Divide by 3, and we know that x equals 2. Now, we can't just stop there. X equals 2 is not an answer, okay? Our intercept is going to be at 2, 0. So you need to write it as a coordinate like that, okay? Cool. All right. Now let's take a look at our y-intercept. So to find our y-intercept, we have to plug in 0 for x and then solve for y. So we'll have 3 times 0 minus y equals 6. All right, so we know that since we plugged in 0, that first 3x term, that just kind of adds away, right? So we've got this negative y. Be sure not to lose your negatives. Be careful about that. Equals 6. Then we'll divide by -1 on both sides to get y by itself. And y will equal -6. So we had 0 for our x value and -6 for our y value. So we need to make sure to write it as 0, -6 to find our to have our actual answers for our y-intercept. So go ahead and on the next one, find your x and y-intercept, and we'll make sure you get the same answer. Okay, so did you get the same answer as me? Was your x-intercept 4, 0, and your y-intercept 0, 2? Did you make sure to write them as points? I hope you did. I'll see you guys later.